Meg.
Okay, so I'm recording this. I'm ready to hear this.
Okay. The goodness of these two rings appear to me to be identical.
Yeah, they appear to be from the same jeweler and everything.
Yeah, maybe even from the same stone.
Oh.
Now, I'll tell you a quick story, all right?
Okay.
Back in about 1975, I was a captain at Fort Rucker, Alabama, right by the Georgia border,
Okay.
about 100 miles north of the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
And I came out of Mass one Sunday, and a little nun walked up to me. She was about 4'11". She was about 50 years old. She was from Ireland. Sister Bridget. She says to me, Captain, I saw by your name tag that you're an Irish American. And here you are at Mass, so I know you're a devout Catholic. And we need your help. And I hope you will help us. And like every good Irish Catholic in Chicago, I'm trained to go, yes, sister, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, sure. She says, we are having a retreat for the high school sophomores this weekend. And we need a married couple to chaperone.
Mm-hmm.
Keep the boys from chasing the girls. These are 15-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. They got me in trouble, at home. But anyway, I agreed. So we took our two children at the time down to Magnolia Springs, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's right on the Gulf Coast. Okay? Now, before I go any farther with this, I have to tell you another story, because the real synchronicity here is the two stories coming together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the first story goes like this. Back at the turn of the last century, around 1900, this French immigrant named Oriol, that's an odd name, Oriol, lived next door to my grandfather, John Jeremiah, in Roseland, on the south side of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
They were next door neighbors and good friends.
Mm-hmm.
They each had a son, many sons, but these two sons, one was Oriol Jr. and the other was my dad, James Patrick.
Yep, probably my friend Scott Kirkle's grandfather. How many could there have been around here?
That's right. That's precisely right. So anyway, those two men went to high school together, played on the city championship football team together, went off to fight World War II at the same time, came back, and my dad became superintendent of U.S. Steel on Gary, and Ori became superintendent of Inland Steel.
Okay.
And then Ori's son dated my sister-in-law, and another friend of mine, and I knew him, and he worked for me for a little while. So there's 3 generations of relationship between the
Okay.
started with living next to each other as immigrants.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, okay. And then Ori died. Ori, the grandfather, the oldest one. Not my dad's friend, my grandfather's friend,
Okay.
died. And all the men in the parish who had been the Knights of Columbus with him passed the hat, got together a substantial amount of money, and sent it to the Extension Society, which is a Catholic organization, nonprofit organization, which helps the missions, which sends needed supplies and equipment and things to the missions, wherever they are in the world. China, the Deep South, Africa, anywhere the Catholic missions are, the Extension Society provides them stuff.
Okay.
So what these men did in Roseland, they got this money together and they gave it to the Extension Society, and they said, here, will you send a statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, Christ standing there with his heart exposed, you've seen those statues, with a little plaque on the bottom, in honor of Ori, for us.
Okay.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about that. All right, flash forward, 30 years to 1975. Here I am, going down to Magnolia Springs, Alabama, which is a community made up of French Acadians who were run out of Canada by the English, and Irish renegades, and black people and Indians. And those 4 ethnic groups had gathered together and made a community. And they've been there for almost 300 years.
Oh, wow, cool.
And every once in a while they give a little infusion of outside blood, just to keep it from getting crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody married somebody who wasn't in the community.
Yeah.
But they were all Irish, French surnames with all the features of blacks, Indians, Irish, and French people.
Wow.
So it was a real mestizo situation. It was St. John's Parish. It was right in the bayou, right on the edge of the Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the back swamp. There was Spanish moss hanging from the trees. People live on little hummocks of dry ground connected by trails through the swamp. They were bitter poor. And the parish priest, where the retreat for these high school sophomores was going to take place in St. John's Parish, was a man named Father Anthony Zogby. He was a Lebanese American who was a dramatist who wrote plays. In his version of a retreat, instead of lecturing, what they did was practice a morality play where the children would be virtues and vices. And then at the end of the week, they would put on this play at Mass for the parish. And that was the culmination of the retreat. And they would hopefully derive some lessons from that. And then they'd all go home Sunday night.
Okay.
All right. So, as it turns out, my job during the day, so we go down there to this mysterious place. This guy was a mystic. We'd have walks at night in the cemetery, and he'd lie on one of those above-ground graves, with his hands on his chest, and look at the sky while we're all standing around the grave, and he would pray. I mean, it was mystical and kind of weird.
This is the Lebanese guy?
Yeah,
okay.
The pastor, Father Anthony Zogby. But during the day, he was training these people in this morality. So I don't have anything to do with it. So I'm walking around the inside of this old church, this 300-year-old chapel that had once burned down and been built up again. And this was for these French, Irish, Black, Indian people. And they all depended on each other, and they had some common utilities and things like that. Anyway, I get up, I'm looking around the church, I'm reading everything. I'm looking at the architecture, I'm looking at the plumbing, I get up to the right side of the main altar is a side altar. And there's a statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and there's a brass plaque on the foot of it. Now, this is Magnolia Springs, Alabama. I might as well be on the moon. And the brass plaque says, in loving memory of Oriel J.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I just sat there and I went, blip, 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 blip. Meantime, this guy takes a break and he comes over to where I'm standing. He notices my bug-eyed situation. He said, what's the matter? I said, Father, I might be the only Army officer in the whole United States Army that could connect this statue with my grandfather's home 75 years ago.
Wow.
I know this guy. I know Oriel. There's only one Oriel J. And the story is that, I mean, our families have known each other for, what am I doing here? Why is it me? Our families have known each other for 3 generations. Up here, 2 poor immigrants living on the south side of Chicago. And one of them's grandson runs into the statue that the men put together.
Yeah, 30 years ago.
I mean, this little place that's like a backwater might as well be on the surface of Mars.
Yeah.
And he says, boy, you guys just resist training, don't you? You just resist the truth, don't you? What do you mean? And I'm thinking, what a dumbass this guy is. He says, there's a definite reason. This is important. You're here. Pay attention. Keep your eyes and ears open. There's some reason this is not an accident. The Holy Spirit doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't fiddle with people. You're here for a reason. There are more angels in the world than you know.
Wow.
And I said, boy, is this guy a goofball. That night, the parish boiler explodes. They got no hot water, and for some reason, it interfered with the lights, too.
Okay.
They're shut down. They're in a blackout. They don't have hot water. This is Thanksgiving weekend. We have bologna sandwiches. The men slept on the floor of the parish mess hall. The people involved with this retreat. The women slept in the parish house. There were about 6 women who were escorts or mothers or teachers or something. We were reduced to the primitive and the poverty-stricken. Zogby said, it's all right. There's a reason. Don't worry. Don't worry. And the people came rushing up to the parish house, hundreds of them. And he said, no, it's okay. It's fine. Watch. You just watch. Have a little faith. Something will come of this. Everybody's okay, Father. They are all willing. And we completed the job. And we got all done. And they put on the play at Mass. And the parish loved it. And there was a lot of goodwill and love flowing around. And all kinds of good stuff. We got in the car and drove back from the Gulf Coast back north to Fort Rucker. And it was the end of November. 3 weeks later, come north for Christmas. Up here to my ex-wife's mother and father. My kids' grandparents lived in. So we come home. It's Christmas Eve. I've had a couple drinks. I'm thinking about what happened 3 weeks ago. I decided, hey, I ought to call Ori. And and tell him that I found his father's statue. Christmas Eve night, you know how you get sentimental?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do it. I get him on the phone. I said, Ori, this is Jim. Oh, my God, Jim. I haven't talked to you in so long. How have you been? I said, no, that's my dad. I'm his son. He says, oh, okay. Well, what's up? And I told him the whole story, and he got a little choked up,
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I learned about the fact that they had sent a statue out. Before that, it was all just wacky stuff to me that this name was on there.
Oh, so you didn't know any of the backstory when you found it?
No, I didn't know the backstory. But I saw this name out of the blue.
Wow.
Oriel J. When I had grown up with the knowledge of the family.
Wow.
And I was doubly, if I'd known the backstory, it wouldn't have been so shocking.
Right, yeah.
So I told him about it. Then he told me the backstory about how they sent that. He said, that's astounding that you found that statue. It's a needle. That is literally a needle in a haystack.
Mm-hmm.
One little parish in one little obscure corner of Alabama. And he says, tell me about the people. And I said, they've been saying a mass for your father every Sunday since he died 30 years ago.
Wow.
And then that's when he got choked up. And he says, oh, my God, I'm going down there. He was the chairman of the Iron and Steel Engineers Association, and they had their annual convention coming up in Mobile, Alabama, so he was going to go down there. His wife was dying of cancer. She was terminal. Her name was Red, Big Red, they called her. And she was a good friend of my mother and father. They both were. And she was terminal. She only had 6 months to live, and she died right on the dot, 6 months, right when predicted. But she had a special fondness for her father-in-law. She had loved him very much. He had watched out for her when she was a young married woman,
Mm-hmm.
and been especially kind to her. And she loved him very much. And she wanted to go see this statue. And so they, as it turns out, they did. And it just filled her heart before she died. But also, Ori says to me, how are those people that have been praying for my dad for 30 years? I said, they're fine. They're beautiful. They have a mixture of all these racial traits, and they're very kind and warm-hearted. And we had a real good time with them. Then I went, wait a minute. Their freaking boiler blew up. And I'm talking to the boss man of Inland Steel. I said, Ori, their boiler blew up. He said, really? What size? There's 3 sizes. Bathtub, Volkswagen, or small room. And I said, small room. He says, all right, what's the address? I told him, St. John's Parish, Baldwin County, Magnolia Springs, Alabama. He said, no problem. We'll have him set up. So I'll tell you what, Red and I are going to go down there and visit in January when we have the convention. And so here's what he did. He had Inland whip up a boiler and send it down there to them.
Wow.
And then he visited with his wife, and it made the last month of her life something special.
Wow, that's really cool.
And he dropped he was a wealthy man. He dropped a big chunk of money on that parish. They were real poverty stricken.
Wow.
So guess what? I was the messenger.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
I was the only man in the U.S. Army that would have recognized that name or significance of that. Only freaking one. The nun happened to snag me. She happened to be at that church that day on post, that mass, and see me with my family, know that I was an Irish Catholic, have some sense that she could get me,
Mm-hmm.
all these little things. And Zagby had just gotten done telling me there was no coincidence. As it turns out, he was exactly right.
Yeah, that's
now
pretty insane.
Jung would call that synchronicity, an acausal connecting principle. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
With no cause and effect linkage, but we were connected. Now, I saw that picture with one hand pointing one way, the other hand pointing the other way.
Mm-hmm.
One, a slender young hand, the other, a kind of a chubby middle-aged hand.
Couldn't be more reversed in reality, but thank you.
And part of it took place in a hardware store.
Yep.
And noticed a hardware store opposite of a ring of a semi-precious stone, and then see the two identical stones that may have been cut from the same mother stone. They're so identical.
Mm-hmm.
Even the settings looked identical.
Yep.
And then I thought to myself, that's the very definition of synchronicity. Now think about, now let's drop it right there, okay? So we got the shock value out of the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, picture this for me. There's a thing called the implicat order that governs all the laws of nature. Everyone knows about it. All scientists know about it, but nobody can find it or touch it or harness it. The implicat order. And its unfolding is called the explicate order.
Okay.
And the root of these two words is plick, right? Plick.
Yeah.
And that comes from ply, meaning fold. Like if you have a 4-ply napkin. Okay, so implicate means to fold back in. Explicate means to fold out or unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about this. Okay, I wish I had a picture I could draw for you, but it'd make it more clear. Let's say you're looking at a television screen on your left, and it's got a picture of a trout looking right at you, hovering in the water, looking right at you.
Okay.
You got a head-on view of this trout.
Okay.
Now, let's say you got to the right of that, you have another television set. But in that one, you have a right side view of a trout, another trout.
Okay.
Okay? So you have two trouts, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And one's looking right at you, and the other is broadside to you.
Okay.
Okay. And you think you're looking at two fish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, behind those TV screens are cables going back through the wall to a whole other room that you know nothing about. You don't even know the room's there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the unconscious. Now, one of those cables goes to a camera that is looking at a fish in a fishbowl head on. And the other of those cables is going to another camera that's looking at the same fish, except on the flank.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one fish back there.
Okay.
But you have two unfoldings. That's the implicate. What's implicate is one fish. What's explicated is through the cables, through the wall, to the cameras, to the television set, the end result is apparently two fish.
Okay. So you're saying this is the rings? Are we relating this to the two rings?
Yeah, what I'm saying is, at some level, they're the same thing.
Okay. Interesting.
You know, I don't know if they're the same stone. I don't know if they were dug out of the same mine. I don't know what the story is, but there's some reason that they got explicated. Not only did it get explicated and put on the hands of two women, but then those two women were brought together. Now that, I'm sorry. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Now this is and the Holy Spirit does this all the time. Choreographs. We can't choreograph shit like this.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how many little twists and turns had to happen for your two hands to be next to each other in that picture?
Yep.
How many little branches in the road had to be taken to the right or the left, and it had to come exactly right? The million permutations to get that picture where within 6 inches of airspace, there are two identical rings that at one time apparently were the same thing.
Wow.
Now that's unbelievable. There's a reason for that. It's important. It's probably a turning point in your life. And we miss these things all the time. That's why we don't have the miracles we should have. Now you're already caught onto a couple of miracles, like intending something to happen and it happens. So you're a believer. So what I'm telling you is, find out about this. There's a reason your hand was next to that other hand. There's something to be learned here. And you might learn it and not know you learned it, but go through the motions.
Wow.
And it might come to fruition 10 years from now. I don't know. But there's some baby that needs to be saved. Or there's some cure to cancer. You know what I mean? Something is going to unfold from this. You're caught in the middle of the implicate order at work.
Interesting.
It's not only interesting, it's enormous. It's what makes why is the Earth the only place humans can live in the whole solar system? Because of an incredible balancing of exactly the right parameters.
Yeah, you want to
coincidence? I don't think so.
Yeah, you want to hear what else is interesting about that ring? This was actually a young girl. She was like maybe 25. I couldn't tell. We had masks on, but she said her uncle was a carpet layer, and he found it while ripping out carpet in somebody's house.
Where?
Where, like geographically?
Yeah, where was the carpet?
Here somewhere, in a house somewhere in this area. I mean, I don't think it was like across the country or anything. She made it sound like it.
Go back and see her and ask as many questions. Get as much knowledge of this as you can. Find out about what that ring is.
Well, I think it's it. She said he gave it to her when she was only like 11 years old, and she kept it. And
okay, and yours was given to you by your mother.
Mm-hmm. Well, I asked for it actually. Yeah.
Okay,
I wanted
came
it
from somewhere.
Yeah. Wow.
54 years ago. So your mother got it 54 years ago. So what ought to happen here is we ought to find out everything we can about both those rings. And why? Because there's something to be done.
Okay.
Nothing is random. You know that.
Yeah.
This is one of the most stunning things I've seen in a long time.
Wow. I would have just let it go, I think, if you didn't call.
No, Well, most people do that most of the time. And the world is a lot less miraculous to them because of it. This is a big deal.
Okay. Well.
And, it's not a big deal to people that don't want to pay attention to it, but it's a big deal if you're tuned in a little bit.
Call your dad and find out what he remembers about it. I'm sure he bought it at the jewelry store in downtown where his father worked in the evenings.
I didn't know he worked in a jewelry store.
Just, as a second job. And your grandfather, not your
Yeah.
father. He would know a whole lot more about what it, I think it's a man-made stone, isn't it?
I don't know.
The star sapphire it's called.
It's Lindy. I sent the picture to Dad and he wrote back, Lindy Star Sapphire, $75 in 1965.
Huh. Well, maybe he knows more about it than that.
Maybe this is all just about giving Dad a call for the first time in 10 months.
Maybe.
Actually, I talked to him on Father's Day.
Yeah, but it may be, what else it could be? That one little thing that connects you and enriches things. Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but follow it.
All right. Maybe I just need to give Dad a call.
Yeah.
Amazing that he could remember how much it cost in 1965.
I'm not amazed that he knows. Wow, cool. All right, well, I probably wouldn't have given him a call if I didn't talk to you guys, so I'll assume that's the next step.
Just follow the string as far as it'll let you go.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, okay. I'll call Dad.
Okay.
I'll see what Dad says.
Alrighty.
All right, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
talk to you guys later.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.